Welcome in, everybody. It is Monday, April 6th, 8:07 a.m. And today we're going to have a brief conversation about Nancy Guthrie case. And then this afternoon, as promised, I'm going to do an update on the missing general. But I guess today, this morning, I'm feeling discouraged. It feels like the energy around this case. I don't know if Brian Anton went home for the long weekend, and if he's not coming back. Um, but it just feels outside of Brian Anton having been there, and whether or not he's gonna still be there remains to be seen, but it feels like Savannah's going back to work today, God bless her, and it just feels like this case is not gonna be solved at this point. I don't know, what do you think? The last reports from Brian Anton and Ashley Banfield are not encouraging. 0 suspects. 0 suspects. And, wow, that's very discouraging. And the fact that the sheriff continues to defend his actions and seemingly is not gonna retire, um, creates less hope too, because my gosh, we got a bumbling effing idiot who is a massive narcissist, in my opinion. Just in listening to his interview here, which we'll do in a second, it just it's discouraging because I think they messed up, and it's, again, not to throw shade on the new detectives that haven't worked more than 2 years in homicide, including the supervisor. It's not to throw shade at them. It's because people like Aaron Cross, who have so much more experience, are sitting in a closet taking calls about my garbage can got stolen or my cat's in a tree instead of homicide cases. It's the fact that the sheriff narrowed down and dwindled down and stripped away that force of intelligent and experienced homicide detectives. He whittled it down into nothing but bare bones, to skeletons, to twigs, like the guy on the porch trying to get the flowers to take the friggin' camera off, like, defies the thoughts of gravity. Like, you gotta have something stronger than a fucking weed, excuse my language. Like, what are you doing? Or a flower? It's the same kind of concept, like, it just defies logic. And Nanos's thinking is, like, so nonsensical, it defies logic. It's just insane. I was hoping he would see the end of the road that has come for him because of everybody trying to have him recalled and all the lies under perjury that he's made about his resume and everything else. Oh my god. And then Ashley Banfield just broke another story we're gonna listen to. What the F? So I'm discouraged today. I was feeling hopeful yesterday, and it's swaying up and down. But I've been looking, and I know it's a long weekend. I get it's a long weekend, and a lot of the reporters and journalists are taking badly needed time out with their family. I understand that. But the eyes on this case are also dwindling, thanks to the sheriff running the media out. I don't understand. I don't understand. And God bless Savannah. I mean, I've been there. I doubt she's thinking logically. I just don't understand why she can't use her influence in a different way. I don't understand it. Maybe her blind faith that, you know, the lack of media attention and the police working in the background will bring the resolve, but the thing is, we know from prior cases that eyeballs on the case puts pressure on the police, and I understand they don't need any more pressure, but the bumbling effing idiot does, 'cause he's gotta go, in my opinion. Anyways, I don't know, how do you feel? Tell me how you feel. Are you feeling like I am, that I don't know if this case at this point is ever gonna be resolved, given how many errors happened at the beginning of that of the case, and I don't know, it's discouraging. I'm gonna try to answer a few of your questions here now. I've had some comments before we get into the videos on somebody from a nurse. How do we know that blood was actually on the porch from that night of when Nancy was taken? Well, we know because Savannah told us and the sheriff told us, and we also see the FBI go up to the front porch with the tent. Yeah, be it days later, but they take scrapes and DNA analysis. So we know that blood occurred during the disappearance of Nancy. And I had people ask me, how do I know that the blood was there before the porch guy arrived? Because the blood didn't fall on top of the flowers fell on top of the blood. So the blood preceded the porch guy going up to the porch. The blood preceded the porch guy going up to the porch because of that. So I'll show you that picture again now. And I wanna show you a better picture that I just saw, viewing rather, or oh my god. I can't even think of the word. I've just lost the word. A drone, thank you, flying over top of Nancy's house, and we get a better view, and oh my gosh, isn't there a fort, a tree house right on the other side of Nancy's fence, where the people, the 2 guys that I saw jumping over the fence in my remote viewing session could have been hiding in. It's wild. Okay, so let's show you what I'm talking about, and then we're gonna get into Nanos's interview. And yesterday, Savannah released a statement that I showed. I'll show it again. And this afternoon, I want you to look for the UFO story on the missing general. It's not gonna be what you think it is, I don't think. And Ross Coulthart did a interview yesterday, um, and said that some remote viewers were sending in locations. And we're gonna talk about that because in my experience, remote viewing is not used for locating somebody. So we'll talk about that later. But stay tuned now for I wanna show you the blood that you're questioning, and I wanna show you the view of the home, the one that's the best one from the drone that's current. Watch this. Before we go to Nanos's stubborn interview and Savannah's message to us. So here we can see that the blood is under the flower, not the other way around, meaning the blood was there before the weed, flower. I don't know if it's a weed or a flower. It doesn't look like something I'm familiar with, but it's on top of the blood. So the blood had to be there first. I'll show you another shot. It makes sense. Here's slightly different. It's the same piece, but the piece above it as well. If the blood had happened after, the blood would be on top of the flowers, the weeds, but it's the other way around. Now, some of you have claimed when he comes onto the porch, there's no blood. I can't see that. I'm going to look for that again now, but I think it's too dark, and I don't know that we get that angle, actually, but let's just see if we can figure that out. Does he arrive before the blood or after the blood? Let's figure that out. But the blood occurs before he picks the weeds up. There is zero doubt on that. It's just logical if you look at the pictures. So let's look at that and see if the porch video shows us whether the blood was there first. Well, by golly, I think you guys might be right. Those of you that have commented that when he first comes up on the porch, there's no blood. The blood happens and then the weeds. I think that's an important distinction on the sequencing. He comes up on the porch. Let's look at that video. I think you're right. Comes up on the porch. Then the blood happens and then he goes back for the weeds. Let's watch. And bear in mind, it's dark, and we've been told that you might not see blood, but I mean, if you look at the mat, he's clearly stepping on the entire mat. You can see the door handle here, and the blood is not visible in this picture. So you all might be very right. Let's watch this. He would be stepping in the blood, right? There's no doubt about that right now. And we don't have a bunch of, although we may have one or so foot mark. Looks like the movement in the bottom screen is catching his movement, like that staticky stuff. Okay. So again, it doesn't look like blood spatters there when you compare it to this. Beside the mat. Although he's stepping on it and he's closer to the door than this is, you would think you would see it, although it's dark. But I do believe that you guys and gals who've commented on the fact that there's no blood when he walks up is probably accurate. So the sequencing of the events is very interesting. I'd have to think about that. So why does he go on the front porch? I mean, that actually is so curious. I thought maybe he was set up for sure on camera, but maybe to step in the blood. But that wouldn't be possible if the blood was placed after. So what the F happened? Now I'm very curious on the sequencing of this. Thank you for those of you that commented on that. Now I want to show you, I'm going to follow up with this in another video. Absolutely going to follow up with you on another video on this. But now I want to show you the view of the house that is the best I've seen by my standards in current today's viewings of what the house looks like today. Let's look. This video was done by and giving credit to Nerdy Addict. Let's watch. This is incredible drone footage of her home. Let's watch. I also want to follow up on something. I think there's something really important. I thought I saw a shot. I'm trying to find it again. This blue door in the back, I think it goes directly into the garage and not into a different room. And that might become relevant later, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, let's keep going. Look at the treehouse. So in my remote viewing session, I said, let me make myself super small so you can see this better. Look at this treehouse peeking in here at the back. And this is where I said close to this, to the right of this treehouse, is where I believe they jumped the fence. Like there's like a little gap where this tree ends. You can barely see the wall here. I feel like that's about where they jumped over, maybe even a little closer to the tree. But there's a freaking treehouse there. They could have been hiding in that little treehouse. I mean, you would have extra cover. Not that the bushes don't do a good job, but I mean, wow. Very interesting. Okay, let's keep watching this because it's excellent drone footage. Wild. Look at it. I think they went over the fence. You can't see my cursor, I'm sorry, but right at the very bottom, I don't have a way of getting a better cursor, so right now, I'm sorry, but there's a little bit of a gap here before you get to the treehouse. I think they were right about there, maybe a little closer to the big tree sticking up over the fence when they jumped the wall. Okay, let's keep going. There, we can see where I said they, in my opinion, jumped the wall, knocked out the light. I think it's this light here that they knocked out. I'd like to see evidence that this was also knocked out because the way I see them coming over, it's like they're close to this like concrete edge. One of them is, and another one's closer to the pool when they jump the fence. And the one that's closer to the pool almost runs in a diagonal like the lines, not quite as diagonal as that, but and then I said I felt like they came through the pool and that there might be a gate, and there is, and Brian Enton showed us that. Okay, there's a great shot. Here's the overhead, and when I said that they maybe came in from the road in the back, which I'll show you, it wouldn't have been that far a walk. It would not have been that far a walk. So there's 3 patio 4 sliding doors. There's one at the beginning of the laneway where you come in at the very end of this guest home. There's one from the guest home facing the grass, and then there's 2 in this porch area, one into Nancy's room on the front of the house, side of the house, and, one into the sitting room. So let's keep watching. And then Brian Enton showed us, because I said I think they came through here. I wasn't sure if there was a gate, but he showed us there is a gate down these steps to the gate, and I believe they jumped over the wall here. And you can actually see when the FBI were out there from the bush here over the wall, this shrine over the wall. This is where the FBI took some samples. I do believe they jumped over the wall here to get into Nancy's room. See, there is the road right there. Look, look, look. He showed us. Let's watch. There. The road in behind her house. This is what, you know, when the nerdy addict, or not nerdy addict, I'm sorry, when um Dad's Gone Live or whoever it was, I can't even remember. Oh, Tucson, 857 Tucson took us down that road, and I said, I got a hit on that vacant home. And then Burnett and went back with Bob Kruger, and they walked that easement. They walked that easement. Yeah, it's possible because the house was right there where the dogs were barking. But my sense was they came in through here always, which is the road behind Nancy's. I'll show you that in a Google map. But I mean, you can see it right here. There's not much distance. This is Nancy's pool. They would barely have to have walked from this road. Had they walked up this road, not a lot of walking distance, as you can see for yourself, to Nancy's home. I think that's how they came in through the back. Let me just Google Earth it so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, there we have the Google Earth. Nancy's home is with the pool in the back, and you can see the little circle home where there's a little roundabout right behind it. And I just showed you the distance overhead. If they walked up this road, there'd be only one house along the road where that circle roundabout is that they would walk by. Now, to the right of that, there's 5 houses on the street beside, one in the corner beside Nancy's, 2, 3, 4, 5 you can see. The vacant home is the 3rd house on the opposite side of that road. And the neighbor is the fourth that was talking about the dogs being heard is if you look down that straight road at the very top of the right corner of the page here, go down that road, and on the left side of the road, there's 5 homes. The neighbor lives in the 4th house down, and between the 4th and 5th house, you can see that easement in that they were walking Brian and Bob Kruger. And so I guess it makes a lot of sense that maybe they came in that way and walked far in to Nancy's home, but could they have also gone in a little closer is what I'm wondering. Could they have gone in, instead of coming in where you can see this easement now that Bob Kruger and Brian Enton see, I'll show you here, this home here. They walked this easement right down here, but that would have been a little riskier, quite a bit riskier in my opinion, because the easement is close to 1, 2, 3 homes here. If they had driven in a certain distance and then walked, see this roundabout? Parked their car down here. They might have walked in along here, possibly in the bush, away from the home, 2135, which is right on this courtyard, possibly between these homes. It would have been slightly less close to these homes had they gone in the back this way. And I think, personally, I think that's what they did, but I could be wrong. So the dogs that heard, there's Nancy's home right here. Right here, right? Right here. And look how close it is to this roundabout. To walk in is not all that far. The neighbor, 1, 2, 3, 4 homes right here is the one the dogs were heard. And you can see the little trail here. You can see the little trail. That's where the dogs heard the noise. In fact, the big easement is right here to the right of that house. And so, yeah, it's possible they used that easement, but it just makes more sense to me that they maybe came in more in here. And possibly when they entered in around here, the dogs could have heard it because there's the house here, the neighbor's home that heard the dogs right here with the pool. Okay, let's go back to some drone footage so you can see some great footage here. Just do a couple more minutes here. Nancy's pool chairs. There's the tree house. So, yeah. Now, these are the patio doors. You guys were telling me, no patio doors, no patio doors. Right here at the front of the house, there's 2. There's the smaller one into Nancy's bedroom. When I think they jumped the fence right where all the weeds are, you can see the gate here into the pool where I said, I think they jumped the wall, took that light out, went across the grass, in through the pool gate, around the pool, down the side steps that Barnett and showed us right where the gate is, you can see along the side of the house, and they jumped the wall. And this is where the shrubs and the plant over the wall, the FBI were taking samples and in through Nancy's sliding door. And the 3 sliding doors is a sitting room right beside where the fireplace is. And you can see back here, that road is not that far behind her house at all. At all. So now let's move into Sheriff Nanos's reaction to all the criticism of his Team. And I get it's not his team's fault. No one's blaming the team, but we are blaming you, Sheriff Nanos. We certainly are blaming you for stripping your team down to nothingness with no experience, and how experience actually matters. It's why we call it experience, because it is relevant in work, all types of work. Yeah, as I was saying, in all types of work, experience matters. That's why we put 25 years, 35 years, 38 years, like, you know, Ashley Banfield has. We all cherish and appreciate years of experience in an area, in a field, when we go to apply for jobs. So of course it effing matters. Jesus, listen to this imbecile defending himself.
Over his department's handling of the Nancy Guthrie investigation, Nanos wants to clear the air.
But you cannot attack my department. Attack the sheriff, but you will not get by with attacking my department.
With reports coming out that his investigators made mistakes in the early stages of Guthrie's disappearance, this is what Nanos had to say.
Discrediting an investigation like this doesn't help anything. It's very harmful. No, we don't believe there were any mistakes made.
He goes on to fight back against public accusations that the lead investigator on Guthrie's case has never investigated a homicide.
This sergeant's been the supervisor of homicide for over 2 years. And in that time, he solved some pretty significant, very high-profile cases for this area. The Reddington homicide, the Goodwill homicide, and they solved those within days.
As for the recent reports that he should step down from being our sheriff,
for 50 years, every sheriff here has had that. I can't listen to that. That's white noise.
And reminds Tucson that there is more.
That is white noise? What the hell are you talking about? You lied about your credentials. How is that white noise? Oh, and listen to Ashley Banfield uncovers another story, which I forgot to tell you at the top of this. Listen to this imbecile. He is the most narcissistic. He thinks he's just above the law. And his shit don't stink, excuse my language, but that's just what he thinks. Listen to this.
More than one union that represents Pima County Sheriff deputies, and they aren't all against him.
That one organization is 1 out of 5. They represent less than 20% of the department.
Meanwhile, he says he will continue to protect his team when it comes to.
Okay. We heard there was 100% vote that rendered 50% didn't vote, abstained from voting. I understand that. But if you really support the sheriff, would you abstain from voting? Seems to me like you're more afraid of the consequences of speaking out. I really don't believe this guy just believes his own stuff. It's wild. And I've very much experienced this in my own life with narcissism, and it's the definition of narcissism. They think that their viewpoint is the only one. It's wild.
Their work on the Guthrie investigation.
I'm not going to stand for it. These people work hard every day to keep our community safe.
Okay, Nanos. Yeah, they may work hard to keep the community safe, but you're an effing tool. Listen to this story that Ashley just broke. Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this.
Yeah, and a little bit other news that has happened. I did not know this, but during the Board of Supervisors meeting, and I listened to a lot of that meeting, but not all of it, and I must have missed one of the local residents who said to the Board of Supervisors that she was very pissed at an incident that happened November 6, 2024, with Sheriff Nanos at the local airport in Tucson. She alleged that the sheriff showed up at the airport with a loaded weapon in his carry-on.
What?
And when I say loaded, I mean 5 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. First of all, I guess if you're law enforcement, maybe you do travel with 1 in the chamber. Okay. But on a fucking airplane? Are you shitting me? Like, also, if you're law enforcement, there's a different set of rules. So yeah, you're a little different. I get it. But you do have to follow them. You can actually travel on a commercial airliner with other passengers as a member of law enforcement with your service weapon. But you have to fill out a metric shit ton of paperwork, and you have to advance, warn them. Everybody has to be in on it. and then it's okay. And not in all jurisdictions, to my knowledge. But in this specific incident, and I am just going to have to rely on the incident report that was obtained by Fox News Digital. And so far, they haven't steered me wrong. A TSA X-ray technician saw the weapon in the sheriff's bag and flagged an officer. He's taken into an interview room. They read him his Miranda rights, according to Fox News Digital, which apparently is just protocol. He is not arrested. He is detained because they need to figure out what the F. And then he is escorted to his vehicle so that he can put his hard case containing his weapon and apparently these other rounds into his vehicle. Then he's allowed to book another flight and head out. No arrest, no charges. So I think the Tucson resident who spoke to the Board of Supervisors in their meeting last week was pissed off. She said that's different treatment, that's special treatment. I can't weigh in on that. It feels like it, because I know I'd be arrested. I'd have cuffs on me. I'd be taken to the Huska. I'd probably spend the night.
I mean, that is insane. That is insane. That he would try to bring a loaded weapon in his bag on a plane. It just goes to the narcissism of his mind. Like he's just above the law. He's untouchable. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not. Let's hope his plagiarism, his lying under oath catches up to him about his resume. Oh my God. Okay, listen in now. Listen now to Savannah's message. I played it yesterday. And Ashley and I have so much in common because Ashley talks about being agnostic now and having gone through a whole younger time in her life when she was religious. I was in a horrible high school in the zone for where I lived, and it was just they actually dismantled the school after because it was just horrible. I would skip class and go do drugs and tell my teacher and still pass. It was horrible. So I actually inserted myself I did a school trip with a Catholic high school in grade 10. And I said, I want to go to that school. So I actually inserted myself into a Catholic high school where I graduated from. We did mass every day. And I don't want to show any shade to anybody, but this is where I saw some parts about the religion, the Catholic religion, that I wasn't super keen on. That was just my experience, but I respect everybody and all religions and all views. So I don't post this for anything other than to show you Savannah's message to us. And a couple of you commented about she doesn't have a right to. Please don't comment about her rights. We don't know what she's doing, what she's living through, how she's feeling, or why she's doing what she's doing, other than to try to spread hope. And as Ashley says, maybe another step to being courageous on camera, given what she's going through. So listen in. Today's show host Savannah Guthrie used an Easter message to reflect on faith, doubt, and uncertainty as her mother, Nancy Guthrie, remains missing after 63 days. The message was shared by Good Shepherd New York during its digital Easter gathering on YouTube, where Guthrie delivered a deeply reflective message about navigating grief and unanswered questions during what she described as a difficult season. Nancy Guthrie, 84, was last seen after she believed to have been taken from her bedroom in northern Tucson, Arizona, around 2 a.m. on February 1st. Responding officers found a thin trail of blood droplets leading from the front door to the edge of the driveway. Her back doors were propped open, and a doorbell camera was missing. Let's listen in to Savannah's message to us.
Amen. And now that we've considered our holy gospel, I'd like to offer a moment of human experience. One of our parishioners, Savannah Guthrie, has been carrying a heavy burden, this burden of the in-between of Holy Saturday. And she wanted to share a note to our community. And so I'd love for you to hear from our beloved parishioner, Savannah, as she shares a window into her struggle and wrestle for Easter hope in the midst of a Good Friday reality.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Easter. And Easter is happy. It is flowers and pastels and baby bunnies. It is sunshine and joy and hope. It is rebirth and second chances and new life and fresh starts. It is the most important day of the year for all of us who believe, even more than Christ's birth, more than his death, his resurrection, his second birth into a permanent life. That is what is most crucial to us. His revival and resurrection mean the same for us. We celebrate today the promise of a new life that never ends in death. But standing here today, I have to tell you, there are moments in which that promise seems irretrievably far away, when life itself seems far harder than death. These moments of deep disappointment with God, the feeling of utter abandonment. For most of us, there will come a time in our life when these feelings hold sway. In our tradition, we are taught to take comfort in the fact that our friend, Jesus, in his short life, experienced every single emotion that we humans can feel. That his taking on the form of humanity made him not a distant observer to our pain, but a hands-on experiencer of it. Recently, though, in my own season of trial, I have wondered. I have questioned whether Jesus really ever experienced this particular wound that I feel, this grievous and uniquely cruel injury of not knowing, of uncertainty and confusion, and answers withheld. In those darkest moments, I have thought, bitterly and perhaps irreverently, that I have stumbled upon a feeling that Jesus did not know. After all, don't the gospel stories recount Jesus informing his disciples of his destiny, that he had been sent to die to ultimately be raised up? They didn't get it, but he did. He at least knew his fate. And yes, it grieved him deeply, to the point of shedding tears of blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. But still, he knew the ending. He knew the plan. There would be suffering, but then resurrection. And so I thought, he never suffered this excruciating not knowing. It isn't wrong to think such thoughts, to challenge our God with questions. God does not ask us to be stoics with standards of pain, with Zen-like remove, or shallow sloganeering about the hard battles God gives to his toughest soldiers. Our questions to God, our wrestling with God, this is his opportunity. For through our authenticity and vulnerability comes a portal of revelation, the imparting of truth and wisdom. And so it went for me, this portal opening as I stared at yet another incongruently luminous desert sunset amidst my spirit's utter darkness. Suddenly, I remembered the grave. I remembered 3 days in the grave. No one talks much about that. We focus mostly on Easter. Of course we do. We cut to the happy ending and the joy of Sunday morning. And yes, we do observe the Friday before, the agony of crucifixion. We mourn by candlelight that darkest night. But after Jesus died, after he breathed his last, what did he actually know? On the cross, he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" That is the anguished cry of someone who does not know the answers. Where did his soul and his spirit go in those days in between? And what was he thinking? Did he think his time in the grave would be a day or two or 1,000 years? In the grave, did his agony seem indefinite to him? That torment of uncertainty, the way indefinite pain can feel eternal? Perhaps he did know this feeling after all. As humans living on this earth now, we are all suspended in that moment of uncertainty. not 3 days, but thousands of years between his cross and our resurrection with him. Our faith gives us a spiritual conviction that we will be reborn, that God will redeem this pain, that every tear will be wiped away, that our Easter is coming. But we live viscerally in the meantime, the mean time of feeling unsure, lost, abandoned, disappointed, enraged, forgotten. Our comfort is that our God has felt those feelings from a perspective of humanity, that he has compassion on us, and that he promises, if not immediate answers, his sweet presence. He promises closeness to the brokenhearted, somehow, miraculously, his loving and gentle presence that makes the mean time less mean. Perhaps this is too dark a message to share on Easter morning. But I have long believed that we miss out on fully celebrating resurrection if we do not acknowledge the feelings of loss, pain, and yes, death. It is the darkness that makes this morning's light so magnificent, so blindingly beautiful. It is all the brighter because it is so desperately needed. So I close my eyes this morning and I feel the sunshine. I see a bright vision of the day when heaven and earth pass away because they are one on earth as it is in heaven. When we celebrate today, this is what we celebrate. And I celebrate too. I still believe. And so I say with conviction, Happy Easter.